Oh, hello there. I'm Bilchan.
I'm Nimakong.
I'm Banchan.
In this class, I'll read to all of you. Chapter 1, Section 1 of A Tale of Two Cities, Book the First Recalled to Life.
As.
Ah.
A Tale of Two Cities, Book the First Recalled to Life. Charles Dickens. Chapter 1, Section 1. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct though the way in short. The period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received, for good or for evil, in this superlative degree of comparison only. There were a king with a large jaw and a queen with a plain face on the throne of England. There were a king with a large jaw and a queen with a fair face on the throne of France. Of loaves and fishes, that things in general were settled forever. It was the year of our Lord 1775. Spiritual revelations were conceded to England at that favoured period, as at this. Wise Safka had recently attained her 25th blessed birthday, announcing that arrangements were made for the swallowing up of London and Westminster. Even the Cock Lane ghost had been led only around a dozen of years, after rapping out its messages, theirs, and people, from a Congress of British subjects in America. Which, strange to relate, of the chickens of the Cock Lane brood, Pond and Triton, all with exceeding smoothness downhill, making paper money and spending it, under the guidance of our Christian pastors. She entertained herself, besides, with such humane achievements as sentencing a youth to have his hands cut off, his tongue torn out with pincers, and his body burned alive. Procession of monks which passed within his view, at a distance of some 50 or 60 yards. It is likely enough that, rooted in the woods of France and Norway, there were growing trees, when that sufferer was put to death, already mocked by the woodman, fate, to come down and be sawn into boards, to make a certain movable framework with a sack and a knife in it. Terrible in history. Lands adjacent to Paris. They were sheltered from the weather that very day. Rude carts, bespattered with rustic mire, snuffed about by pigs, and roasted in by poultry, which the farmer, that had already set apart to be his timbrels of the Revolution. But that woodman and that farmer, though they work unceasingly, walk silently, and no one heard them as they went about with muffled tread. The rather, first much as to entertain any suspicion that they were awake, was to be atheistical and traitorous. In England, there was scarcely an amount of order and protection to justify much national boasting. Daring burglaries by armed men, and highway robberies took place in the capital itself every night, of Fuster's warehouses for security. The highwayman in the dark was a city tradesman in the light. And then Captain gallantly shot him through the head and rode away. The mail was waylaid by 7 robbers, and the guard shot 3 dead. And then Goss shot dead himself by the other 4. That magnificent potentate, the Lord Mayor of London, was made to stand and deliver on Turnham Green by one highwayman, who despoiled the illustrious creature in sight of all his retinue. Prisoners in London gaols fought battles with their turnkeys, and the majesty of the law fired blunderbusses in among them, loaded with rounds of shot and ball. Thieves snipped off diamond crosses from the necks of noble lords at court drawing rooms. Musketeers went into street chaises to search for contraband goods, and the mob fired on the musketeers, and the musketeers fired on the mob, and nobody thought any of these occurrences much out of the common way. In the midst of them, the Hanwan, ever busy and ever worse than useless, was in constant requisition, and stringing up long rows of miscellaneous criminals, and hanging a house breaker on Saturday who had been taken on Tuesday, and burning people in the Hen Gate by the dozen, and now burning pamphlets at the door of Westminster Hall. Today, taking the life of an atrocious murderer, and tomorrow of a wretched pufferer who had robbed a farmer's boy of 6pence. All these things, and 1,000 like them, and 75 environed by them, while the woodman and the farmer worked unheeded. Those 2 of the large jaws, and those other 2 of the plain and the fair faces, trod with stern earth, and carried their divine rights with a high hand. This did the year 1775 conduct their greatnesses, lay before them, to be continued.